Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Bitcoin stories, and I'm your host, Dea Reskita. And in this today episode, we have a special guest named Gigi. Hi, Gigi.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming to the show, Gigi. So Gigi is very I'm very happy to have him in these shows because the first time I know Gigi is actually when I go to there's a website called bitcoinresource.com, and this is like a really good place for people if they want to start their Bitcoin rabbit hole journey, if you want to learn a lot of about Bitcoin. And Gigi collected all of this information in a very very structured and really helpful. So I want to thank you for that, and that's actually also helped me to understand more about Bitcoin from your collection.
Excellent, excellent. That's why I created it in the first place. So I'm very glad it was useful.
Yeah, it's really useful. So, like, whoever listened to this podcast should also go to Bitcoin Resource. But Gigi also write a book called the 21 Lessons, right?
Yeah, the two projects are related because when I was writing 21 Lessons, the book, I tried to read as much as I can about Bitcoin, and I just collected all the resources that were helpful to me on the side. And when I was done with writing the book, I was like, yeah, I should put the additional material somewhere for others as well. And that's how Bitcoin Resources got started. And it grew over time, of course. And I had some other people that helped me. So thanks to all the contributors and everyone who suggested content, that really helps as well.
Oh yeah, it's very like quirky, and it's also packaging in like you go to this rabbit hole journey with Alice. So I really like the way it's a different angle to see it. Bitcoin technical stuff, and also the idea behind it. So maybe we
Yeah.
talk about the 21 lesson. What is your most profound lesson from all?
Yeah, I think the most profound lesson in 21 lessons is actually lesson number one, which is that you don't change Bitcoin, but Bitcoin changes you. I think um, I think if there's one takeaway from the book, I think this one should be it, because we've seen this in the past, and I think we will see this over and over again, that people that try to change Bitcoin to their liking or to their understanding of it, they will have a hard time, because Bitcoin is like the essence of Bitcoin is unchanging in nature. And so the end result, as far as I have seen it in the past, and as far as I observe it in the space, is that Bitcoin actually changes your values and changes you, and it won't be the other way around. And the sooner people understand that, the better it is for them, I think.
So how did it change you? How Bitcoin change you?
Oh, wow. I think just answering this question alone is like an hour or two worth of podcast. Um, it, it changed me quite a bit. So it changed my political views. It changed what I knew about money and economics. I think what most people report by interacting with Bitcoin and falling down the rabbit hole is that it changes your time preference. You tend to start saving and also thinking in Bitcoin, and you tend to plan for the future more. And I think it also makes you more optimistic about the future, not only because potentially it will be kind to you in the future. So if you save in Bitcoin over a long period of time, historically it was very good for your purchasing power. So you have a tool in your hands that allows you to economically plan for the future in a better, more meaningful way. And all these kind of things, I think it boils down to two major changes. As I've already said, it lowers your time preference.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very profound change in itself. But it also teaches you how to take on responsibility. You have, because in Bitcoin, if you use Bitcoin as it is meant to be used, so to speak, like if you hold your own keys, if you run your own node, if you take the responsibility of your money into your own hands, that seeps out into other areas of life as well. You tend to take on more responsibility, and it allows you to, well, it allows you to take on the challenges in a more meaningful way, I would say.
Wow. Yeah, and it's very interesting because, like, when you use, let's say, fiat money, it the value decreases over time. So it's also make it hard for especially millennials to kind of plan their future, because right now it's already hard. They cannot even imagine if they have families, or if they have yeah, like taking more mortgage or something like that is already too much for them. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I also
it's a
see.
very it's a very subtle change, I think, but it has so many profound consequences, because you don't necessarily know this intellectually, but I think everyone knows it instinctively, and that's also how people behave. They take out loans, they have lifestyles that they actually cannot afford. They're
Mm-hmm,
very anxious because they are not sure if they will have their job, for example, for the next 1 or 2 years. They're not sure if their savings will actually last, so they tend to spend it and live in the moment and not plan for the future as much. And all of this, I think it goes back to how our money, the fiat system we currently have, the fiat money that we have, is inherently broken, and
mm-hmm,
the deflationary nature of it, also that you're not in control. Like
mm-hmm,
um, politically and also monetarily speaking, everything can change in a whim, and it has in the past. And I think people kind of know that instinctively and feel that, like, you cannot rely on your bank account, for example. You cannot rely that
mm-hmm.
what you have saved in the past will actually buy you something meaningful in the future. And Bitcoin inverts all of that. Like, you can be very sure that the purchasing power of Bitcoin rises over time. It has been true historically, and if you understand money and monetary properties deeply enough, then it follows from this understanding. And you can also be very sure if you understand how the Bitcoin network operates and how the cryptography operates, and if you know what you're doing and you're in possession of your own private keys, and you have good backup systems and all of that, then you can be sure that your Bitcoin will still be there, and Bitcoin itself, the network, will still be there. And I think those changes, like, they ripple through your life. Like, I think every Bitcoiner can kind of report that. Just
Mm-hmm.
having the certainty that Bitcoin network will still be there and your Bitcoin will still be there changes a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's also very funny because if you go on Twitter and then you see like a lot of people who are into Bitcoin, they sounds uh like to scare people about the whole money system, and then like make it really spooky. But most people are quite optimistic, actually.
Yeah, that's true. It's like Twitter is not real life. So if you actually talk to Bitcoiners, they are very different than the Twitter personas. And
Yeah.
Twitter is just, I think, a lot of fun, and like, it's if you say outrageous things or post funny things, this is what will get spread and will get engagement. So that's just how Twitter works. So it's not surprising. But just listen to podcasts, and if you can, go to meetups and talk to other Bitcoiners. They're not all crazy people. Some of them are, but not all of them.
Awesome. So let's jump to like your Bitcoin story. So um I know that you are a software engineer, and you are now working at Swan Bitcoin. So
Yes.
what made you buy Bitcoin in the first place? When was it? And then yeah, like what did you do with it? Did you just buy it, everything about it in the beginning, or you trade it? Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think the reason why I bought is like the same reason why everyone else bought. I thought I missed the boat, and I had an insane amount of FOMO, and so I was just like, okay, I have to buy it now, otherwise It's way too late. And I thought I missed the boat anyway, but if you go back, everyone thinks that, there are people that bought in 1 Bitcoin equals 20 cents, and they thought they missed the boat. So if you go to the old Bitcoin forums, there are a lot of stories like that. Like everyone is like, oh man, I missed the rally to $1, and now I missed it, and and so on. So this is to everyone who is listening to that. Think of it about, like being late to the internet. You're never late to the internet. You can just join the internet and benefit from it. And Bitcoin is the same way. You never missed the boat on Bitcoin. It will always feel like that, but it's just never true. And yeah, I got in. It took me a very long time to take Bitcoin seriously. I had very early contact, so I could have been a real OG. I'm definitely not. But I think I heard about Bitcoin the first time in like 2013, 2014, something like that. I actually worked with people that built their own blockchains and were quite deep into Bitcoin already in like 2014, and I just made fun of them. And I have a strong computer gaming background, and I was like, that's just like Ultima Online Gold or World of Warcraft Gold, or it will get shut down if it gets too big. And if Second Life, for example, it had the same problems. It had its own currency, and then it got regulated, and then it got like almost shut down and stuff like that. So I realized like it can't be safe. It can't really work. It will be shut down. I had the same ideas around Bitcoin than all the doubters have in the beginning. And so it took, I think, 3 or 4 touch points with Bitcoin until I took a second look, and I didn't understand any of it really. Like I understood parts of like the technical parts of it. I think I understood quite early, quite well, but it's not the whole. It's like only understanding the technical parts, like the public key cryptography, digital signatures, how a hash works. You can understand all that, but still completely misunderstand Bitcoin. And I had to get up to speed with the economics of it, and it getting into Bitcoin and having some skin in the game actually forced me to learn all that. And I think I bought. I'm not even sure if I said this publicly ever, but I think I bought in 2015 for the first time, and I made all the mistakes after that. So I had a very long shitcoin phase. So I was deep into Ethereum. I had so many different coins. I talked about that on other podcasts as well. I did mining. I even mined Ethereum. I mined other coins as well, and I traded for quite a while, like 1.5 years or something like that. And as most traders, I was not in the top 1% that actually make money as compared to Bitcoin. Like if during the hype cycle in 2017, everyone's a genius because everything just goes up and explodes. But if you actually look back and compare it to how many Satoshis you would have accumulated if you just auto DC8, like if you just bought a little bit of Bitcoin every day, it blows all the trading out of the water. Like I think I lost I don't know, like I lost most of my Bitcoin that I had with trading and other stupid things. But I think a lot of Bitcoiners went through that, and I think that's like the expensive lessons are the best ones because you will never forget them. So there is no way in hell I'm ever making this mistake again.
Was it you who tweeted that all roads will lead to Bitcoin, or someone else? But I think that's like pretty much sum up what your story is, right? Like all the roads of shit coins will go back again to Bitcoin.
I think someone, I don't remember who said it, but someone said once that the path to Bitcoin maximalism is paved with like dead shit coins, something like that. And and that's very true. Like a lot of that, there are very, very few Bitcoiners that didn't touch any shit coins ever. Like you had to have a deep understanding of monetary economics and Austrian economics to realize that Bitcoin is the only sound money and everything else is a cheap copy and doesn't even have monetary properties in the first place and isn't centralized in the first place. And I think, that there's maybe, I don't know, like 20, 50 people or so that never went through the shitcoin hell. And it's something that everyone, I think, has to learn, has to experience for himself. So it's just, I almost gave up saving other people, but I wrote the piece "Dear Friends, Dear Family," which sums up, like, I tried to distill everything that I learned with all the mistakes that I made, and I tried to save as many people as I can, so to speak, from this particular hell. And yeah, it seems to work sometimes, but it's also, if you get into Bitcoin during a bull market, you suddenly have a lot of money, and some people then they will start to gamble with that money. And I did as well, like maybe there is another project that is worth something, and you try to quote unquote invest in that. And I think it's just human nature, and everyone will have to make these kind of mistakes a little bit, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned about this dear families and dear friends. That's like one of my favorite blog that you wrote, and I also jumped and translate one, that article itself and turn it into Bahasa Indonesia because I thought that that's really relevant. I particularly really admire like how you can explain technical stuff in a very simple and easy to understand for average people like me. So what is your process of writing your pieces? Like, do you like to write since you were a kid, or like is there any other process that you do?
Yeah, no, I don't have any secret. I try to I never wrote, actually. Like, the first stuff that I wrote was pretty much about Bitcoin. I think I wrote like one or two other small things that I never published. But I only started writing seriously when I started writing for the Bitcoin space. And I learned a lot. Like, looking back at the very earliest things I wrote, they were kind of all over the place, and I learned a lot from other Bitcoiners. Brandon Quidham helped me quite a bit with some pieces, putting a better structure to them. I'm not sure who told me this trick of try to. I'm not sure who was it. Maybe it was Nick Carter or someone else, like some other really good writer. And the tip was, try to think of the tweet, or like try to distill it down before you write it. Like, try to condense the whole piece you're writing into one tweet or two tweets, and then start from there. And then expand it from there. So, because otherwise you will be all over the place. And since Bitcoin is so a complex, large topic, it's really hard to stick to one aspect of it and not get lost in the details. So that was a really nice tip. I can't remember who told me that, but it was someone who is really, really good at writing.
Oh, that's very good tip because I mean, right now in the Bitcoin space is the more you teach other people, and writing is one of the medium. Podcast is also one of the medium to teach people, and then right now we have Clubhouse. So I think that's really good suggestion and advice, like to distill it into like 140 characters because people attention are so limited right now.
Yeah, a second one might be just go for it. Just sit down and write. The hardest part about writing is actually sitting down and writing. Like, it's really, really hard to sit down every morning and write for an hour or two. And if you want to write something, if you have an idea, just start and just try it, and just do it really. Like, try to write a really bad first draft. Try to write a really bad outline. Just some bullet points, that what you want to say. Start with the tweet, go with some bullet points, and just throw it together. See if it makes sense, and then you can just fill in the blanks between the bullet points and write some paragraphs. And if you go over that like 4, 5, 6 times, then suddenly you have a 10-15 minutes article that probably is really good, you know. So if someone wants to write something, just go ahead and do it. That's how I did it as well. And yeah, so to my surprise, enough people liked it, and now I'm known as an author, even though I still have a very hard time referring to myself as an author, because 21 Lessons, it just grew organically. It started actually with a tweet thread, and then it got published as articles, and then it got published as a book, and now everyone knows me because of the book. But it's just, you know, people forced me to put it in a book. It wasn't the plan in the first place.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the advice. So let's jump into the big topic of today's podcast, which is living with a pseudonym, because you have a pseudonym called Gigi, and I know this is not your legal name, but it's your pseudonym, right? So I mean, I read a little bit from one of your article about true names not required. I think it's really, really cool, and we can see the relationship between identity and also privacy. And why did you decide to use a pseudonym, and when did it start?
Yeah, so as I wrote also in the piece, true names not required, I've kind of always been Gigi. So it's not even a pseudonym I made up for Bitcoin, but it's just my nickname. Everyone calls me Gigi. Also, my teachers called me Gigi. My parents call me Gigi. My wife calls me Gigi. Everyone calls me Gigi. So for me, it's very easy to do because I don't have to context switch. I don't have two personalities. I never use my legal name pretty much, unless I'm forced to. But so it's very easy for me. But I think I decided to use a pseudonym in the Bitcoin space because when I started to get deeper into it, it wasn't clear to me yet how everything will play out in the Bitcoin space, and it still isn't entirely clear. But as it looks now, it like I think with every day and every big move by corporations and other big players, it becomes less and less likely that governments will step in and try to ban Bitcoin and try to smear Bitcoiners and stuff like that. So that was one of the reasons. Just staying anonymous or pseudonymous online is kind of you. If the Bitcoin experiment at that time, like 2016, 2017, it was still not clear where this will go, and I got in before the Bcash fork, for example, and this was a very uncertain time, and so I decided to not use my real name for that reason. But a second thing was also I wanted to kind of stay true to the internet ethos, and the internet ethos, in my opinion, is not using your full legal name, but is creating funny nicknames and creating funny avatars. And as I said before, I come from the gaming world, and that's just how the world works. Like nobody's interested in your real name. You have a nickname, and that's your name, and everyone knows you by that. And if you want to use another name, then that's fine as well. Like if you want to go incognito, so to speak, and create a second account and use another name for a while, that's fine too. And I also really like the idea that once you remove your legal name and your legal credentials from your persona, you have to build up a reputation from scratch. Like I could also use my legal name and my titles that I have from academia and a very nice profile picture where I look very serious and wearing a suit and a tie. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying people should not do it. I think we need both all kinds of people in the Bitcoin world. And if you're an economics professor like Seyfedin and you look really good on a photograph and you have a lot of credentials and you have a PhD, then by all means use that and put your weight behind it. But I think we also need pseudonymous people like myself that are just, like cartoon avatars on Twitter and don't take maybe themselves too seriously, and also Bitcoin not too seriously, but still have good arguments and are smart people. And I really like how this works in the Bitcoin world, that we have kind of the serious macro investors, economics professors, computer science professors, and also just random people where nobody has any idea who they are or where they are from. And they're all arguing with each other on Twitter and on Clubhouse and everywhere else. And it's also like those people are taking seriously as well. That's what I really love about Bitcoin. Like we have core contributors that are completely pseudonymous. Nobody knows where they are. You only know the time zone and the nickname, and that's it. And I think that's really important because it makes the whole Bitcoin ecosystem very anti-fragile. Like finding those people and trying to make them do something that they actually don't want to do will be very hard. And I think that's important for Bitcoin as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, if people pay attention on Twitter lately, there is Craig Wright, the guy who claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto, always like being on the Twitter space, and then I think also want to dox people who have pseudonym. So, yeah, do you think it's important for us to know who is the real identity of Satoshi Nakamoto?
No, I don't think it is. Like, I think I see it in the same way. It's not important. I mean, definitely it would be interesting to find out, but I hope Satoshi never comes back, and I hope we will not find out. And I really hope that the mystery around Bitcoin's creator remains a mystery, and it's not important in the same way that it's not important who Pythagoras was, or what his diet was, or what his religious views were. The like a squared and b squared is c squared, and that's it. And you can verify that for yourself. If you understand how this works, you can look at it. You can prove it mathematically. You can draw a couple of squares and triangles and make sense of it all, and you will see that this is true. And I see Bitcoin in the same light. If you can understand Bitcoin completely by looking at the code, you can verify it yourself. You can understand how it works and how it operates. You can understand the game theory behind it. You can understand the economics behind it. And you don't need Satoshi for it. And it doesn't matter who he was. And if it was one person, or if it was a group of people, or if he was male or female, or a time-traveling AI, or an alien, or Elon Musk, it doesn't matter. It definitely was not Craig Wright. Like Craig Wright is a fraud, just for the record. And if he wants to find out who I am and sue me, go for it. He did it with Hollownout and other people as well. But it's I think it's obvious that he's just he's not a man of character, and I think this is enough proof, because Satoshi was a man of character, and that's enough proof for me. And in the Bitcoin world, of course, there is a very easy way to prove that you're at least in control of a private key. You can sign a message with it, and unless, like, I don't believe any claim from anyone who says that he's Satoshi unless he signs a message with a private key that is thought to be in control of Satoshi, like one of the very early blocks and one of the very early transactions, for example. That would be very good proof. Everything else is basically can be dismissed as a lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think in Bitcoin space, everyone always say don't trust but verify. So
yes,
it's it's in the core of Bitcoin itself. Like, it's a trustless money. So it's trustless technology as well. So yeah. I also want to know, because you are living with the pseudonym. So what are the advantage for you to live with a pseudonym?
Well, I think one of the advantages is that it's a good question. Like, there are definitely advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is that I can't do video calls as easily. Like, I have to be creative to appear in front of the camera. I think it's also it's very difficult to kind of increase your profile, so to speak, because people are very, very good at remembering faces. And just knowing who someone is just by looking at the face. Like, I mean, we're biologically programmed by evolution to be really, really good at face recognition. So if you don't have a face, it's very hard for people to recognize you. And I experienced this a couple of times. I've been to a couple of conferences and meetups and other things, and just nobody knows who you are. And that's also a benefit, like that's a great advantage. I can go everywhere. Nobody knows who I am. And I also think another benefit is that you don't self-censor yourself too much. I think if everyone knows who you are and you're a serious person with a serious background, and yeah, maybe you still have a fiat job, or even if you're working in the Bitcoin world, you maybe don't want to say as many stupid or funny things on Twitter. And I'm not burdened by that. So like I try to not self-censor myself at all. So if I think something, I say it. And I think a lot of the pseudonymous accounts on Twitter have this benefit that they can speak their mind, and they, especially if you're just a pseudonymous character on Twitter and you're not working in the Bitcoin space, and you have like no repercussions. You can say what you want, and I think that's very, very healthy and a big benefit.
And also, like, maybe touch a little bit about privacy in, like, in general, like, having a pseudonym is actually helpful for, yeah, like, no one can no one can hurt, let's say, people that you love. And then also the maybe like with the banks or like government, like they cannot, yeah, they don't know, there's no like repercussion in what is it called, like very hard hard ways, kind of like that, right?
Yeah, well, that is true. Like, being a pseudonymous actor is definitely very beneficial for your privacy, but still, it always depends on your attack vector. So, the government, I'm pretty sure they can find out quite easily who I am, and I think you have to go, like, you have to be extremely careful and know what you're doing to stay completely pseudonymous, completely anonymous. Satoshi managed to do it. There are some other people, I think, that managed to do it. 6102, for example, is very good at that 6102 Bitcoin, and he refuses to appear on podcasts, for example, because to not dox his voice. But yeah, I'm kind of immune to $5 wrench attacks because nobody knows who I am and where I live, and so that's very good. If you're a public person in Bitcoin, it might be very easy to find out who you are, where you live, who is your employer, where you go to work, stuff like that. But I wouldn't be too worried about that, actually, because there are a lot of wealthy people and they don't get attacked on the street all the time. And it's with Bitcoin also, the technology improves that. Once you have like a distributed multi-signature setup, for example, it's very, very hard to rob someone of his Bitcoin, because you would have to go to 3 different places and it will take a week until you can actually move the funds and stuff like that. But it's definitely beneficial for privacy and security reasons, and that's of course also one of the reasons why I chose to stay pseudonymous.
Awesome. So let's also jump into your new book. You are going to create a new book, right? Called 21 Ways. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. 21 Ways to Look at Bitcoin is the full title. And yeah, I'm currently working on it, but it's very hard. As I said at the beginning, it's very, very hard to sit down and actually do the writing.
So tell us more about the new book. Like what's the difference between the 21 lesson and what you're going to share in that book?
Yeah, so 21 Lessons was what I've learned from falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And it's 21 very short lessons that I learned. And 21 Ways will be about how to look at Bitcoin from 21 different perspectives. And I think I really love the phrase Bitcoin is different things to different people, because it's so true. And if you're an investor, you see Bitcoin in a different light than when you're a cypherpunk, for example. And if you're a trader, you see it differently than when you are the CEO of a small business, for example, and want to move to a Bitcoin standard, put Bitcoin on your balance sheet. And yeah, I think there are so many aspects of Bitcoin. It's worth exploring them in more detail. And I want to that's also what I want to do in the book. I want to dig a little bit deeper and just explore some of the aspects, in more detail. 21 Lessons was very kind of shallow, and I want to, I think I have a second book in me, and I want to write at least some of the chapters in a more meaningful, deeper way. And I published, like the book will also be released under an open source Commons license when all is said and done. I hope I'll get it done this year. And just like 21 Lessons, so everyone can read it for free and also print it himself and translate it and do everything with it. And I just recently published one of the chapters, which is called Bitcoin is Time. And if someone is interested what 21 Ways will be about, that's like one piece of it. Like one way to look at Bitcoin is to look at the problem that Satoshi actually solved, which is like distributed timestamping, building a distributed, completely like trust minimized timestamping server. And Bitcoin actually creates its own sense of time, which we understand as block height. And it's really interesting how this works together and actually works. And small little things like that is what I try to explore in 21 Ways.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to read that actually, because that will be very interesting to see it from different perspective. From like, I think, even from spiritual aspect also, like there are something in Bitcoin in the spiritual aspect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the chapters. I have the titles of the chapters already kind of set, but they're not set in stone. So maybe if maybe if I'm motivated, I might put something along those lines in there as well. I think it's really interesting how I think a lot of people actually see some spiritual and religious parallels in Bitcoin.
So maybe the last question is, like, you you write a lot, and then you try to spread words about Bitcoin, and I think like all of the Bitcoiners as well are very passionate about spreading the words of Bitcoin, and sometimes it can get annoying to a lot of people.
Yes.
So like what is your suggestion, probably, or advice to people who want to teach other people about Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really difficult, and I struggle with that myself. And I've been doing it for many years now, and it's really difficult because everyone understands different pieces of the puzzle. So I think you have to talk to people on a very individual basis. I don't think there is one elevator pitch that works for every person. I think you have to talk to, for example, a business owner in a different way than you have to talk to a computer scientist about Bitcoin. And I think it's that the most difficult thing is figuring out what the hang up is, what the person you're talking to is just not understanding or not willing to see. And once you manage to figure that out, it becomes easier and easier to explain Bitcoin. But it's understanding Bitcoin is a process, and a relatively long process, because there are so many puzzle pieces to figure out. So I would say, just like Matt Odell also likes to say, chill lightly, don't overdo it, don't scare your friends and family away by just talking about Bitcoin all the time. Just let them know that if they have questions, you're here, and like mention it from time to time, chill it lightly, and try to be patient and understanding, and also, like try to be patient with yourself as well. In the sense, I know that you want to save all your friends and family from the coming fiat collapse, and you want to get them into Bitcoin as early as possible, but it's just it's very, very difficult to do that. And just be patient with everyone, and Bitcoin will still be there. Like as I said in the beginning, it's not like thinking that you're late to Bitcoin is I think it's a mistake, because we're still very, very early. And I think when people when people get impatient and they FOMO into Bitcoin, and they're driven by emotions, I think they tend to make a lot of mistakes. Like they overextend themselves, or don't think through the implications of what they're doing or what the best setup might be for them. So just take it step by step, take it slowly. Try to be patient with the people you're trying to onboard, and just let them know that you're always there, just like Bitcoin is.
Yeah, like yes, last episode, last week I have a conversation with Mark Kwan, and he mentioned about in life there's only two choices, whether fear or love, right? So a lot of people right now having this narration of fear, FOMO, or fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Everything related to trades. Yeah. So I think he has a good point of saying like how we can embrace people through love. Like start from like loving money itself.
I think love is the right approach. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So and how we can support you in terms of your new books, if anyone want to support.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to support me is just buy Bitcoin, and the easiest way to do that, I think, is to set up auto DCA, like set it and forget it, and buy a little bit of Bitcoin every week or every month or every day. And if you want to support me directly, I have a Patreon for the book. You can support me on patreon.com/dergigi. You can also, of course, support me using Bitcoin. The easiest way to do that is on my homepage, dergigi.com/support. And other than that, feel free to follow along on Twitter. And also, again, like don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to start writing yourself. Don't be afraid to start your own podcast like you did there. And I think the more entries to the rabbit hole there are, and the more people there are that think about Bitcoin and talk about Bitcoin, the better it will be for Bitcoin. And that's just good for every Bitcoiner and for humanity overall.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gigi, for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you for listening to the My Bitcoin Story. Stay tuned for more episodes and click that follow button.